What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my Week 3 review for the Big Ten Conference. This week just proves that the Big Ten Conference is going to be unpredictable this season. It was a pretty good week in Big Ten football. Let's go ahead and take a look at the games that happened yesterday. But first, just a reminder that the Wisconsin Badgers canceled yet another game due to positive COVID tests. That game was against the Purdue Boilermakers, and this game again will not be rescheduled. Now Wisconsin is getting back on to the football field with limited conditioning due to COVID tests going down, which is fantastic news. We hope to see them on the field this week. They have a pretty interesting one coming up against a pretty interesting team. I will not spoil it for right now, but if you know what's coming next, then Wisconsin, you really do want to see them get back onto the football field just for that game's sake and just for Wisconsin and Big Ten football's sake. So hopefully they can get back on next week, but that game was canceled and will not be rescheduled. Now moving on to the games that actually happened on Saturday. We'll start with this one. This one was the noon game on the Big Ten Network, and it featured the Nebraska Cornhuskers and the Northwestern Wildcats, in which the Northwestern Wildcats improved to 3-0 with a 21-13 win against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. No matter what year it is, this game always feels like it's a close, competitive game, and it was for most of it. It was pretty back and forth, but Northwestern did take over later down the line, mainly like the last 10 minutes or so. That game was all Northwestern. Nebraska did play Luke McCaffrey for some drives. You can see his stats there. Almost could have thrown it in, but Luke McCaffrey just decided to force a throw that wasn't there, and Nebraska ultimately lost it on a 4th and goal. It was a great effort by both of these two teams, but Northwestern is now on a streak. 0 second-half points allowed in the last 107 minutes of play. That dates back to last season as well. Again, the running attack was prevalent for Northwestern, but this looks like one of the best all-around teams in the Big Ten. So this is definitely an interesting team to watch. They have a pretty good matchup next week. It might even be game of the week, in my opinion. I'm deciding between a couple of games, but it is up there for consideration. When you look, Nebraska did not play a bad game. Adrian Martinez, Luke McCaffrey both got involved in the passing game and the running game. Of course, Dedrick Mills punched it in for the only touchdown that Nebraska scored yesterday. But, I mean, this Nebraska team just has, again, a lot of questions, a lot still to figure out. The 0-2 start, you don't really hang your head about that. You face two very good football teams. And, hey, they're going to face a struggling team next week at home in Lincoln. Maybe they can pull off a big win. But, again, Northwestern improves to 3-0 for the first time since, I believe, 2000 with a win against Nebraska. Again, final score is 21-13. The Iowa Hawkeyes absolutely dismantled the Michigan State Spartans 49-7. Michigan State, again, they did not look good in this game. Rocky Lombardi threw 3 interceptions. We'll come back to Michigan State, but when you look at the Iowa stats, Spencer Petras played well in this game. Only 167 yards, but did throw for the touchdown. He didn't really need to do a whole lot. The running game was prevalent. Tyler Goodson, the main running back, 14 carries for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Mekhi Sargent, 9 carries for 31 yards and 2 touchdowns as both the teams improve and fall to 1-2. Iowa gets their first win of the season. But back over to Michigan State, I put down there which MSU is the real MSU, because we've seen this Michigan State twice now. It's the Michigan State that cannot take care of the football. 7 turnovers against Rutgers and 3 turnovers here against Iowa. Their rushing did not do anything either. A total of 32 carries for only 52 yards. That's almost an average of 2 yards per carry, which is not great at all. Again, Rocky Lombardi just making some poor decisions. One of those interceptions was actually ran back for a pick 6. So which Michigan State is the real Michigan State? Or is it the one that cannot hold on to the football? Or is it the one that we saw against Michigan? Next week, they again have a pretty big game against a team that is rising in Indiana. So we're going to have to see. But, I know you're going to probably say, well, it's different because that was a rivalry game. I have a feeling this is the real Michigan State. It's the Michigan State that cannot hold on to the football, and that's got to get fixed because 49-7 against a not terribly great Iowa team is disappointing, especially coming off of that big win. But Iowa gets their first win of the season. That is what you can take away from this game. Also, that Michigan State needs to hold on to the football, but again. All right, now moving on to game of the week. And I feel so happy for Indiana. It's the first time beating Michigan since 1988 as the Indiana Hoosiers improved to 3-0 with a 38-21 win over the Michigan Wolverines. And again, it's a Michigan team that didn't look great. They did not really improve on a whole lot of anything from what they did against Michigan State. You see there their team rushing only 18 carries for 13 yards. That's less than a yard per carry. And penalties absolutely killed them as well. 8 penalties for 89 yards. Joe Milton made some poor decisions, 2 picks. Did have 344 yards, but, man, let's talk about Michael Penix. He has really emerged this year, as has Stevie Scott. Both those guys accounting for 5 total touchdowns. Michael Penix threw 3 through the air, and Stevie Scott 2 on the ground. Ty Freifogel got involved. Watt Fillier got involved. This Indiana team is really dangerous, and all of a sudden that Indiana and Ohio State game looks like it could decide the Big Ten East. We all thought it was going to be Ohio State and Penn State, but Penn State has struggled. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but Indiana looking to be like maybe Ohio State's toughest game left on the schedule. All credit is given to Indiana in this game. And if you're a Michigan fan watching this video, you guys got to clean it up on every facet of the game. Your defense, I know you guys have an aggressive defense. You like to be really handsy, but that has given you a lot of flags. It's been called in all 3 games that you've played this year. Now, it didn't affect you much in the Minnesota game because Minnesota's defense is pretty shaky, but it affected you against Michigan State. It affected you against Indiana. Something has to change, and Don Brown is shaking his head right now. Michigan has got to turn it around if they want to remain somewhat relevant or somewhat of a challenge to Ohio State this year. But as for Indiana, they are moving up in the world. They are the feel-good story in the Big Ten as, again, they get the win against Michigan for the first time in a long time, 38-21. Another team gets their first Big Ten win of the season. This was between a group of 0-2 teams, both looking, but Illinois just did not pan out that way. When you look, Corin Taylor just did not throw out, only 6 completions for 106 yards and a touchdown. Mike Epstein, again, this Illinois team is so beat up, and I thought Illinois was going to be better this year. I thought Illinois was only improving, only getting better. They're taking a step back from where they were last year, but Minnesota gets their first win, 41-14. Again, Mohamed Ibrahim had a 4-touchdown game. He is emerging as probably the best running back in the Big Ten, with Journey Brown not playing this season. All credit to Minnesota in this game. I know Illinois is beat up because of COVID and things like that, but Minnesota is absolutely still a high-powered offense, and their defense played a lot better in this game. Now, I know Illinois is not the highest of powered, or I should say highest of caliber offenses. Definitely not the best offense Minnesota is going to face this year, as they still have to face Wisconsin if that game is going to happen. Minnesota does get their first win. It was against a not very good team in Illinois that just has to turn a lot of stuff around. Rashad Bateman did Rashad Bateman things, accounted for pretty much all of Tanner Morgan's passing yards. Tanner Morgan at 216, Rashad Bateman at 139. You can look at more stats anywhere else you'd like, but there are some stats on screen for you. Minnesota gets their first win of the season. building momentum for what they have to face next week. This was the shock of the week. I was watching this game unfold, just thinking about what the heck is happening to Penn State, but the Maryland Terrapins improved to 2-1 this season with a 35-19 win against the Penn State Nittany Lions. And make no mistake, the score may be close, but the score may have been closer, but the game was all Maryland. Talia Tagovailoa, it looks absolutely poised in that pocket. 3 touchdowns and 282 yards. Jake Funk had 16 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown as well, but Raheem Jarrett had himself a day. He caught 2 of Tagovailoa's 3 touchdowns. The other one goes to Demas. You see their combined stats on screen, and Maryland improves to 2-1. This Maryland offense can beat you. This Maryland offense, if your defense does not play well, they will get it into the end zone. Penn State, though, just what is happening with Penn State? 3 touchdowns thrown for Sean Clifford, but 2 interceptions, and he was also sacked 7 times. You look at the combined stats for Jahan Dotson and Parker Washington, but Penn State is 0-3 for the first time since 2001. While the offense might have played pretty solid, the defense did not. The defense was all over the place, was all over confused. Shaka Toney in that group has got to pick it up for Penn State. I thought they were going to be able to bounce back and easily win this one, but I don't think anyone could have predicted Maryland to beat Penn State. If you picked Maryland to beat Penn State, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Probably picked it for the goofs and lulls and just got lucky. But hey, all credit to you if you did. But Penn State in some trouble this season. Starting again, I don't know if I already said it, but started 0-3 for the first time since 2001. So Penn State has a lot of improvements to make. And as for Maryland, you get a big one next week at home against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Maybe they can pull off another upset there, but Ohio State is a lot different of an animal than Penn State this year. Maryland pulls off the upset, 35-19. And speaking of Ohio State, we get into the nightcap. I just posted an Ohio State fan reaction earlier today, talking more in depth about this game. But for those who are not interested in watching those videos, Ohio State did win that game 49-27. And they improved to 3-0. And again, just on top of the Big Ten, there is really no one to compete with Ohio State. Maybe the closest is Indiana, and I don't feel Indiana has as much talent as Ohio State does. You can look at the combined stats there for a lot of players, including Trey Sermon, Master Teague, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. But all credit to Rutgers. They reached into the bag of tricks in this game. And the score is very deceptive as Ohio State was up 42-9 at one point. But Rutgers outscored Ohio State 24-14 in the second half, and what I thought was a pretty lackadaisical effort by Ohio State in that second half. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe Rutgers just played a lot better than I thought. But again, Rutgers, just after getting down 42-9, they were not going to be able to come back. And when it got a little chippy towards the end, and Rutgers had a 21-play drive that ended up resulting in a fumble that ended the game. But let's talk about Justin Fields for a second. This Justin Fields, this kid is absolutely crazy. If Justin Fields does not go out and win a Heisman this year, I don't know who else will. He has more touchdowns than incompletions. He had 5 touchdowns through the air, also rushed for a touchdown as well. Those stats are not on there, but he did rush for a touchdown. He's getting more comfortable in that pocket, but he can run when he has to. Again, Trey Sermon, Master Teague, good combined stats there. The 1 touchdown goes to Teague. This Ohio State team is really good. Penalties are kind of killing this Ohio State team just a little bit. But all in all, this Ohio State team is looking like they are the best team in the Big Ten. There are a couple things you can improve on for both teams. Definitely Rutgers, you got into the bag of tricks. I think that it couldn't have been a better showing for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. You had a little bit of fumbling miscues. Just hold on to the football a little bit better. But Rutgers is on the way up, so excited to see what Rutgers does from then on. And that was my Week 3 preview. Let's see how that affected the Big Ten standings. here you go. The Northwestern Wildcats and the Ohio State Buckeyes remain on top of their respective divisions against Northwestern, Purdue, then Wisconsin, all of them being undefeated. Again, Northwestern and Ohio State both sitting at 3-0. But how about Indiana sitting there at 3-0 as well? And all of a sudden, that Indiana-Purdue game becomes a lot of fun to watch. So right now you can see those are going to be the cross-divisional matchups if the season were to end today. It would be Ohio State and Northwestern in that Big Ten championship as of right now. But Ohio State's got some interesting ones coming up there. You see there at the top, they do have to play the other two top teams in Maryland and Indiana. Probably going to be favored in both of those games. And Indiana may have faced some good teams in Penn State and Michigan, but both those teams looking like they are struggling. And Ohio State is a different monster. And as for the West, not a lot of shuffling around as you see Wisconsin continuing to cancel games. Hopefully they get back on the football field this week. But there is a big one next week in the West between the top two teams there with Northwestern and Purdue. It's going to be an exciting week next week in the Big Ten. I think it'll really dictate a lot moving forward. And that's all I got for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, hey, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you're brand new to the channel or you just enjoy my content. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. And you can join Tailgate Nation. Also leave a comment down below. Tell me your thoughts on this video. Tell me your thoughts on the Big Ten race thus far. And please share this video with everyone you know. I'm trying to grow the channel as big as possible. So share this video with anyone you know who likes Big Ten football as much as you and me. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. And I'll see all y'all in the next video. Goodbye.